Skyscrapers, new construction projects, and modern facilities. These are what come to mind when talking about Astana. However, not everyone is aware that this city also boasts architectural masterpieces with a centuries-old history.
The witness of 3 political regime changes, it has been still serving for only one purpose for over a century. This is the building of Astana weather station.
The decision to build the meteorological station was made during the rule of Imperial Russia. In 1913, Sergei Ganot, who headed the department of the Yekaterinburg Observatory, has come particularly to inspect the land meant for the station. Together with a representative from the local administration, they considered 2 land plots, ultimately choosing one. To acquire this land for the construction, the Yekaterinburg Observatory approached the Akmola city administration. Local government representatives decided to allocate a plot of 1/10 of an acre for the construction of the meteorological station. Thus, construction began in 1914 and was completed in 1916. This meteorological station, which now stands amidst numerous buildings, was once the only structure on the outskirts. This is how it is remembered by a local elder named Seyfullah, who has lived in this city for over 70 years. I remember in my childhood, on the outskirts of the city, there stood a small 1-story house made of brick. The first thing that caught the eye there was a box with a thermometer. And there was also a weather vane standing there. No one went there. Years later, the building is no longer on the outskirts.
If we take a closer look, the weather station is a single-story building decorated with red brick pillars and pilasters outside. It spans about 20 by 15.5 meters, including facilities nearby, and stands a little over 7 meters tall, from the ground to its highest roof point.
At first glance, it may seem that the bricks were simply laid in a single row. However, if you pay close attention, you will witness a completely different picture. For example, the fact that some bricks at the junction with the roof appear slightly protruding in an orderly manner adds a special touch of luxury. It also seems to enhance the size of the building. The walls are constructed from red-fired bricks in a patterned masonry technique, which is a characteristic of the eclectic style. The window style is also peculiar. Apparently, they were intentionally made large for the sake of illumination. The windows with arched headparts do not have protruding casings. The composition of the main facade is symmetrical, which is characteristic of classical architecture. The entrance part is completed with a semi-circular mezzanine. The total area of the building is 953 cubic meters. The interior of the facility has been completely updated to meet modern standards necessary for operational convenience. Only the old devices and apparatus used for weather forecasting bear witness to its rich past. One could even say that this place looks like a museum of antiques.
This is a heliograph. It records the amount of sunlight throughout the day. Here we can see a ball. It rotates, aligning either to the west or to the east. The sunshine leaves a burn mark on the strip. Can you imagine? A burn mark from a magnifying glass. And it rotates non-stop from sunrise till sunset. As they built high-rise buildings 10 years ago, it became impossible to use this device to measure the sunlight. Due to this, the device was removed and is no longer in use.
The building, with a history of over a century, does indeed stand today amidst skyscrapers. Interestingly, the construction of these skyscrapers was facilitated by the meteorological station building.
The weather station has close connection to the history of building Kazakhstan's capital Astana. An iron shaft located on its wall acts as a sea level reference point. When the capital shifted to Akmola, the tall buildings in this area were built upon this benchmark.
This is another sign of the special significance of the building. A benchmark is not attached to just any building. They are only attached to buildings designed for many years. The building underwent its latest restoration in 2005. Cracks in the walls were injected. Deteriorated roofing materials were replaced, while intact parts were treated with a solution to ensure protection against damage. The area around the foundation was fortified to prevent water seepage. In the basement, the original exterior of the building remains intact. The stone wall itself seems to be a messenger from that era. A small window appears to convey the atmosphere of the past centuries. There are several more buildings preserving the memory of the 19th and 20th centuries. Now, let's focus on one of them.
In 1899, in Akmolinsk, a red brick building was built as a theater. Today, it still retains its original architecture and is served as a theater. The main theater building was built in 1916 initially with 2 stories for artists. But due to political twists of that era, it was repurposed for other needs. In 1939, it once again was opened as a theater for audiences.
The 2 buildings standing side by side are now owned by the Russian Drama Theatre, named after Maxim Gorky. The history of their construction is full of romance.
Кубрин деген бір үлкен бір сол кездегі меценат болған. Сол азамат осы.
A merchant named Vasily Kubrin used to live here. Legend has it that he built this theater. People remember many versions of this story. According to one version, Kubrin, while visiting another region, fell in love with a girl. They say she was very beautiful and she was a ballerina. Smitten by her, he said, "Let's go back together. Will you come with me?" She replied, "I would go, but I have a condition for you." The impatient merchant asked, "What condition is that?" The girl said that she would like him to build a theater like the one where she lived. Enchanted by the girl's beauty, merchant Kubrin built this building.
Театрды маған соғып беріңіз дейді. Қыздың келбетіне, соның бір өнеріне тәнті болып, ғашық болып, осы себепші болып, жаңағы айтады ғой, осы ғимаратты соғып берген екен.
Though the building was constructed for the theater, it had to serve other purposes as well. Historical sources contain information about the building being used otherwise. It was a time when various political events, such as October Revolution and the Civil War, were taking place.
Қазіргі мына орыс драма театры бар ғой, ол қыздар семинары болған.
Today's Russian Drama Theatre was once a female seminary. It was a single-story, well-constructed building. After long discussions, they decided to add another floor. The theater's team moved into this 2-story building.
Жаңағы театрды соған апарған.
When you look at the design of the building, you cannot not notice the architecture's try to use ancient Rome style. Especially the columns look like they were inspired by classicism.
Throughout its history, the building has experienced 2 fires that brought significant changes to its architecture. During one of the reconstruction efforts following these emergencies, a 3rd floor was added. Despite the focus on convenience and comfort during these architectural modifications, the exterior retained a unique character. Pilasters, columns, triangular pediments, and balcony balusters enhance the grandeur of the structure. There are also archivolts typical of the Gothic style. At the same time, efforts were made to preserve the original architectural elements to the maximum extent. Photographic evidence from the archive indicates that the overall appearance of the building has not changed significantly in recent years. The interior of the building aligns with its exterior, reflecting recent restoration efforts. Care was taken to preserve the atmosphere of the past century. From the light fixtures to even the simplest details of decor, everything contributes to a journey into the past.
As you step inside, you will immediately notice you are in an architectural gem. Every detail and corner attracts the eyes, reminding us of the rich history embraced within these walls. To be or not to be, that is the question, is a phrase that these stages have heard a lot of times throughout its history. These stages offers a variety of performances in different genres.
Even during the World War II, performances did not cease in this building. The actors of that time had tragic destinies.
Қаламыздың, елордамыздың төңірегінде шет жағында Алжир деген лагерь бар, оның бәріне белгілі. Ол жақтан көптеген мықты мамандар.
Near our city, there was the Algier camp, the Akmola camp for the wives of traitors to the homeland. Many professionals who served their sentences there were taken to the theater to play. They were the wives of intellectuals. In 1942-1943, a Kazakh-Russian theater troupe was established here.
42-43 жылдарда қазақ орыс жаңағы труппасы ашылады осы жерден.
The one-story Red House accommodates the box office and a rehearsal hall. This building holds more memories of the past. The exterior, skillfully crafted from fired bricks, also attracts attention from a distance. Both of these structures are under state protection. Now let's move on to the new developments of the city. In this area, constructed after the capital's relocation at the end of the last century, there are not only administrative buildings but also numerous structures that surpass each other in height and architecture.
The world of river flows between different places. Near it, there's a tree of life called Bayterek. It represents a popular tree that stands for support and protection. It holds the earth with its roots and touches the sky with its branches. Every year, a special bird named Samruk lays an egg on top of the tree. It becomes the sun. But the dragon, who lives at the bottom of the tree, wants to eat and hunts the sun. It represents the ongoing cycles between day and night and the fight between good and evil. It all sounds like a fantasy movie, but it represents the idea of Bayterek. We're about to discover this building, uncover its design story. Right now, we are 4.5 meters deep underground, and our tour kicks off here. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the unique architectural structure, which is the symbol and one of the main attractions of our capital of Kazakhstan, the Astana city.
The idea to build the Bayterek monument originated after the capital was relocated to the new city. After the esteemed Kazakh architect Akhmarza Rustembekov developed the design, construction works began. However, there were difficulties during the process. Specifically, the groundwater level in this area was excessively high, and pile-driving machines couldn't reach the excavated pit due to the surrounding marsh. To address this situation, the contracting company brought 5-centimeter thick steel sheets from Karaganda. Initially, these sheets were laid into the pit using a crane so the pile-driving machines could access the area. The foundation pouring process commenced afterwards. The reinforcement on this multi-meter high foundation was so dense that vibrating the concrete was challenging. The structure's foundation is disc-shaped. Above it, there is an elevator shaft. After all of that was built, the assembly of the metal framework began. The labor-intensive work continued for a year. The metal structures were transported in a disassembled state from Qarag'anda and assembled on site.
To build this monument, 1 kiloton of metal was used. The dome's glass covers an area of 1,555 square meters. The glass comes from Belgium, a top-class producer. Then it was taken to Italy to shape it into double glazed, and finally was taken to Astana.
So now we are going to the golden sphere, which is the top of our facility. Now you can enjoy the beautiful view of our city. The total height of monument is 105 meters. The total point of facility is 97 meters.
"105 meters, that's the height including the spire at the very top. The second mentioned height dimension has its own significance. The number 97 is selected to commemorate the year when the new capital moved to Akmola. Inside the golden sphere at this elevation, unique compositions are arranged.
Also, I want to show you the composition with the pigeons that mean the multinational state. The Kazakhstan has 138 nationalities. That's why we live in peace and harmony. This composition was made by Brian Clark, and also they were made of Bahame crystal. They give the beautiful view in the night and in the evening. That's why it looks very beautiful and exciting.
Regulations and requirements for the preservation of the structure constructed with such effort have been approved. Measures have been taken to prevent situations that could potentially damage the monument.
The sphere approximately weighs 300 tons. The diameter of sphere is 22 meters. At one time, 100 persons can be in the sphere at the same time.
According to experts, the initially approved requirements must be meticulously followed here. The metal structures coated with special corrosion-resistant paint are expected to endure for 100 to 200 years with proper maintenance. The monument, which has become the symbol of Astana, is one of the best structures built in the new millennium. Whereas the buildings that carry the memory of past centuries serve as evidence of the city's long history. These facilities stand as storytellers of their respective eras, ready to unveil their worlds for the future generations.